Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports, the independent and accurate pollster who thinks that being able to ask any question and get you the truth about public opinion is more important than people's feelings. And we're going to talk today about a topic that, a lot of America is discussing, but you will not hear one little bit about it in the mainstream media news, and that is Kamala Harris's bizarre lack of in-depth interviews that most presidential candidates in the past have done. Isn't anyone curious about that? But before you do that, we're going to stop in with a little information about the state of the race. Here's the Real Clear Politics aggregate. We came out with Trump +2 yesterday, which was his first tick up against Harris in all of our polling. The week before, we agreed with the New York Times that Trump was up 1. You can see there; those results are still there for them. But Morning Consult and Reuters Ipsos put out polls showing Harris up 5. Now, I haven't had a chance to dig through the crosstabs yet, but what's probably going to happen is unscrupulous mainstream media sources are going to cherry pick those two polls and say, look, we finally have our first post-debate results back. And Kamala Harris, just like we told you, is the clear winner. Everybody loves her. She's going to run away with the race, and all the headlines are going to be positive from here to November. Now, what I will say before, I get a chance to pick them apart and show where I think their errors are, in reality, Morning Consult already had her at like +4 just a few weeks ago. It's basically steadily been there. They have a +3, +4. And Reuters Ipsos had her at +4 just like 2 weeks ago. And ABC News using Ipsos has her at +4 too. So basically, if anything, I would call these incremental 1-point moves to the left not really all that meaningful. But one other thing you can do just for fun is to go back into the historical polling archive and look at 2020 national polls and go down to all the historic polling. And there you can find Reuters Ipsos called Biden +7 when he won by 4 and had him at +10 and +9 and +10. I mean, do I have to keep going? +12, +9, +8. I mean, what are we going to call this average? Call it a +8, +9. So there were 4 or 5 points too left in 2020. I have reasons to believe they haven't corrected that. And compared to us in the New York Times, that's about where they're at. 4 or 5 points too left. Where's Morning Consult on here? Morning Consult isn't even on here. Did they not do any polling? Maybe the Real Clear Politics people just didn't think they made the cut 4 years ago. Whatever. Here is our most recent daily chart showing now 2 nights of data post-debate, September 11th, September 12th. Now, the September 12th data point's a little bit bigger. That's because we got extra data. Hackers broke in and deleted some of our data, so we took more, and then we were able to recover the old data. And if you add those two numbers up, it comes up to about 855 U.S. likely voters, which is in the vicinity of plus or minus, call it 3%. And with a tie on September 11th and a 6-point lead last night, it's looking pretty close to a Trump +3 result, which maybe you could call it a little bit of an increase. Quite frankly, it's probably what we said, which was the debate doesn't really mean much. The Trump people know Trump and probably got what they needed out of that Trump debate. The Democrat people loved everything she said and weren't objectively considering the actual content. And it all comes down to independents. Talk a little bit more about them, but looking at these numbers, it doesn't look like independents are moving, although we have to wait till next Thursday to see the actual demographics in the crosstabs. And speaking of crosstabs, here's what we're talking about today. How important is it for Harris to give interviews to the news media? 54% of voters say very important. Another 24% say somewhat important, for a combined total of 78% who say important, like pretty much everybody. Only 6% of the electorate says it's not at all important that she needs to give interviews. Men say it's a little bit more important than women, 62% to 47%, very important. And it's flat across age, pretty flat across race. But look at this, a party signal. 64% of Republicans say very important, a combined total of 80% say important. 82% of independents say important. They want information out of this woman, but it's the Democrats who think it's not that important. You know, a combined total of 74% say important, but only 38% say very important. And 25% of them say it's not important. But that fits with our model of independence. They are concerned about the direction of the country and want to know more about the people they're electing. Like, doesn't that make sense? The fact that they're not affiliated with either political party means there is some level of mistrust there. But then if you go out to Biden approval, it's the Biden strong approvers who are least likely to say it's important for Harris to give interviews. Only 29% of them say very important. Maybe a charitable read of this is that they were following her closely over the last 4 years and hanging on every word in every interview she gave. And so they're very familiar with her accomplishments and really don't need to see more. Or maybe it's just that they're bought into the Biden ruling regime. How would you rate the job Kamala Harris has done in terms of outlining her specific policy ideas since becoming the Democrat presidential nominee? 25% say excellent, 22% say good, combined total of 47, which I will say is higher than any time I can recall anything that Biden was rated on, maybe like Ukraine way back in the beginning. So that number is kind of high, but coincidentally, it's the same number she gets in the 2024 matchups. Now, part of the problem here is like, I don't know what fair means. Maybe we should change it to like excellent, good, poor, and horrible. But 42% of voters give her a poor job, so that's a 51%. So there's not agreement here that she's been successful, but let's look at who's making up those numbers. Again, women are a little bit more kind to Kamala Harris than men, and the younger voters are more likely to say she's done good or excellent, 59%. Maybe that's because they're patched in more to a wider spread of information sources. I mean, she has put out some policies, like everybody was laughing at the price controls and calling her a communist 2 weeks ago. And I'll tell you what, 18 to 39-year-olds are not going 59 points to Harris. It's more like 49 points. So maybe that's where some of this is coming from. Maybe it's naivete. But black voters are much more likely than everybody else to say excellent, 36%. But here are the party numbers. And, you know, she actually gets a 22% excellent or good from Republicans. And again, you know, maybe it's the communism signal. And then 36% of independents. But look at Democrats. 46% say she's done an excellent job. I don't know. Maybe that's still kind of low. 33% say good for a combined total of 79%. But here is the most important number anywhere on this page. And that is that 54%, a majority of independent voters, say that Kamala Harris has done a poor job outlining her specific policy ideas since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee. They have not seen what they want to see, and Kamala Harris needs to win a majority of independents and is currently losing by a very large margin. Her debate performance was not adequate. The independents were much more interested in Trump talking. We covered this in our previous video. And she needs to change independents' mind somehow, and it isn't by picking Tim Walz. This is free advice for the Democratic campaign. Between now and November, you have a real opportunity to be very vocal and specific about the exact policies that Kamala Harris is going to put in place, because that is the frame of reference that it appears independents will be evaluating you by. You have not done that yet. And feeding into the Democrat desire to hear the same Russia collusion, Charlottesville hoax, drinking bleach, bloodbath. We've done the polling. Nobody thinks Trump was talking about violence when he said bloodbath. By feeding these Democrat talking points, catechisms, whatever you call them, you are not reaching independence. And that's why in our polling and in the New York Times polling, you're losing. So listen, nobody should call us partisan because I just gave Democrats free advice on how to win the 2024 election. In my opinion, the bar is kind of just lower for them. The Democrats do have a brand advantage in the way Republicans could only dream about. Basically, voters hate Republicans right now. They just like Trump. So all you need to do, Democrats, to win is just kind of not be insane, start speaking truth, and lay out common sense, I hate that word, but common sense policies that will make the lives of people in America better. You know, one sentence bullets aren't going to cut it. I hope you learned something today. If you did, like the video and subscribe while you're there on YouTube or Rumble. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Rasmussen_poll and my account too, Mark_R_Mitchell. We talk about a lot of the same things, but maybe I get a little bit deeper into some of the stuff. And I also think the cat memes are funny. Hope to see you there, and thanks for watching.